So this was last night, and we're talking about production. And I think as a result of that, as a topic, I naturally, I mean, it was subjects as well, but I naturally, avoided the production approach, the structure, this, that, and the other, and I mean, I don't do that anyway, so it's not like it was difficult for me to do, but I did this, and then people were talking about energy and life. Someone mentioned about, I think I mentioned in this, that in the folder flip through, I'm going to do another one today. I'm going to dig out some of the other ones, because there's stuff in those, but I can hardly remember what I showed you yesterday, but let alone the things that are in the ones that are at the bottom of the pile, so to speak. Although I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 piles. And I've seen these artists with their bookshelves of sketchbooks. I've seen that, so we all do it. And then, as I said, somebody mentioned about the energy and life thing, and I always come back to the, if you want energy, if you want life in the portrait, there has to be life in the marks that you make. It seems to me that that's common sense, that an engineered mark, a constructed, precise mark, will be as full of life as a cabbage. You know what I mean? And I think that's the fundamental. So if you can put the energy into the marks, you're going to put the energy into the portrait. But I think it all relies on the. I've done it again. I've got no paper. Hold on a minute. I think it all relies on the. You see, the thing is, I come in the morning, and my first desperate desire is to draw something. Now that I don't know if that's just a habit thing or an addiction thing or whatever you want to call it, but that's my first. I require. It's like having a cup of coffee. First thing I need to do is draw something, and I'll sit and switch the camera on and forget that I need to put some paper on there. So it's the same paper, by the way. It's still that cheap stuff that I got from. I'm going to go back tomorrow, see if I've got any more. But yeah, it's so it's my overriding desire, which is quite apt, really. I've got this thing of removal of everything, whether it's equipment dependency or the material dependency, whether it's expectations of outcome, whether it's expectations of production. So I get rid of all of those things, and it's purely my desire that drives this. So anyway, so come back to the energy thing. So this idea that is what I'm going to draw this here. I'm going to give it the same kind of briefness, if you like, as the guy in the beard. It's just that sometimes when you're faced with a female face, for some reason, and I know it's what it is. It's because of the pure beauty is not the right way to describe it, but what I'm saying is that there is the definition of this image, the life of this image exists when it's a female face more than a male, but it exists within what's not there, and that's kind of a contradiction to what I'm trying to do. So I don't want it to be nothing. You know what I mean? Somebody mentioned about Sargent's charcoals and the lack of modelling, and I'm not. For me, nothing to draw is nothing to draw. I do it as I've just said. This is my my oxygen. And if there's nothing to draw there, if I'm not interested, I'm really not interested in those opaline female characters that you see in these traditional kind of paintings. I'm not interested in that. There's just, as I said, there's nothing there, and since this is built, it's bound to the marks. And then, as I said, the marks are the bit that contains the essence of this and the energy of this face, this individual. Then there have to be marks. It can't be about the subtleties of this opaline, alabaster-like face. It has to be more than just that. So, as I said, it's difficult with female faces for me because I end up trying to sort of chasing there's a contradiction in terms. If there's no shadow, I mean, I get round it by having the shadow, by either it's lit like that, or I'll fiddle with the image to make sure that it's, the shadow shapes and the definition is clearly defined by the right kind of lighting. So I'm just trying to get things roughly where they need to be before I unleash the hounds. It's a lot less sedate than the working with the guy, but there are certain characteristics the same. I think that the restriction on the medium, rather than it being as I said yesterday about with the other guy, it was the fact that I was using just a short piece of charcoal that kind of made it more dependent on less, because I haven't got the precision, the control, the precision that you'd probably want to do, to sort of take me into a different place. I haven't got that at the moment with this, and it ends up being the marks tend to be, the opposite of what you think. They're not precise marks. They're not, in the way that you draw. They're not that kind of precision. They tend to be short and stubby marks. I think I add to that the charcoal, and I know I bang on about this homemade charcoal all the time, but add to that the it's the way it makes makes the tones and makes the marks. Add to that and the inconsistency of that as well, which is part and parcel of the attraction for me. And I think it's the outcome is different accordingly. It's different because of that. I think it's different because of the lack of precision, the lack of control, which is a lot, for a lot of people. The control part of doing this is what scares them. The lack of control with charcoal, the lack of with graphite. There's so much control, and because of this, this desire to be right thing. There's so much control of it. If I don't have control, I won't be able to get the lines in exactly the right place and make exactly the same copy or a copy with face. If I don't have this exact control. But the thing is, this is probably one of those kind of profound things. It's the very reason you don't have control is when the best things happen. And it's true. It's like it's like a revelation thing. It's sort of at the point at which you lose control, you gain control. It's like and you gain creative control, should we say? And that's the thing. It's the are you brave enough to do that? Are you brave enough to let go and take your hands off the wheel, kind of thing? It's that. Not many people are. I don't think that's the norm. I think most people want to keep their hands on the wheel, just in case they crash. I've said this before. It's not, this is one of those occasions when you should take risks and should. I wouldn't say push yourself, but it's definitely a finding out what you're capable of, kind of thing. The hardest thing with this is that people just don't get what it is to be creative. And they don't get what it is to be creative because none of us know what it is to be creative. That's why they don't get it. It can be anything that you want it to be. And again, that's not good enough, is it? It has to, we've got to know, we've got to put a label on this. It has to be this, it has to be that. And if I don't know exactly what it is, I can't do it, can I? Obviously, I can't do it, is what they'll say. It's fine, it's fine. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying that the people that want creativity are often the people that want exactly the opposite. And back to the production and execution thing, the predictability outcome thing. I would say, though, that it wasn't until I got to a point where the drawing was I understood that the drawing wasn't the thing at the beginning, and the thing about the energy, getting the energy into the face, into the portrait, is that in the first instance, your response is at its greatest, is at its most focused, and that's when the needle on the dial needs to be really responding to the emotional side of things, and that if you try and make that a drawing phase, it won't work. You won't capture the life of it because you're too busy trying to draw it. This thing about people they'll draw the essence, or they'll paint the essence into something once they've got everything in the right place. It doesn't work. Just look at the quality. I mean, there are amazing productions out there, but just look at how lifeless they are. They paint and draw corpses basically, and that's not really what a portrait's about. It doesn't matter how well it's executed. You can never manufacture the life into it. If you're creative, if you have this ability to connect and to respond and to bring it into the world, and however you do it, as painting, drawing, whatever it is, if you're able to do that, then it's not going to be a contrivance to do that. It's not going to be something that you do it deliberately. You're just going to have to let it go. You're just going to have to let it. And if it works, if it manifests, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's not really a formulaic thing. So this thing of trying to capture the life and put the energy into a portrait, there has to be an element of magic to it. You can't, the unknown stuff. You can't say, oh, well, I'm going to do this, and then bish, bash, bosh, there's a portrait. You can't do that because it doesn't work. You just get good at the production. You just get good at using the oils or the technical aspects of doing things. You just get good at that, which is fine. This is why so many people promote that as an outcome, and we get poisoned by that, and ultimately think it's how it should be, and then we self-destruct because we can't do it that way. which is what happened to me. So, but it's I said to somebody this morning, it's like this is not talked about. You know, there's no art college that's doing, you know, let's get to the root of what this is about kind of thinking. It's all about technique and execution and tradition. I mean, that for me is probably the worst part of all of this. The tradition of painting. That must stifle more creatives, because it's like there's this unwritten law. This is how it's been done for 400 years. This is how we did it. These great masters were able to do this. I mean, they suffered from the same problem. They went to schools in Paris and in Venice and Florence, and they did what their masters told them, which is built on the kind of atelier type of concept of, the master goes down the pub getting up to God knows what, while the students actually did his work for him, which is probably, at the root of all of this mechanical need, to make it in a particular way, because you've got to do it as good as the masters. And that perpetuated, by the sounds of it, when we read between the lines, that's exactly how it worked. But I don't know. That just doesn't leave room for us coming along wanting to do it differently, does it? It doesn't leave room for us to sort of break the mold and say, hang on a minute, I just want to do this. This is how I see the world. This is how I see people. This is how I want you to see the world, which is the big one for me. This thing about, they say that art is reveals the beauty and the truth in reality. It's that's the general consensus, but I think that's one way of looking at it. Actually, that's just a bit of one of those cliches, those, what's them cracker things you get? It's like out one of them fortune cookie thing, but it's not the real thing. Is I just want to show you what I see. This is what I see, and what I see isn't contrived. It's just my seeing is my response. My seeing is my feeling to something. So if I feel energy in something, then, and it manifests in the way that I respond, then that's what I want you to see. That's that. You know what I mean? It's that. I want you to see the energy that I see in that. It's not just, that's not technique. That's not about a skillful application. It's not that. That belongs in the ateliers, and that's all skillful application. But I don't want to show you that. I want to show you what I feel about this subject. That's what I want to show you. So, but as I said, the energy thing is a I think it's one of those things that a lot of people who are practically minded would poo-poo. They would say, oh, that's not rubbish, that's just arty-farty things, you know what I mean? I mean, it's strange how artists would criticise other artists for being too artistic. But they do, don't they? You see it all the time. You see all these. I mean, I get it. This is probably the one thing that I get the most, is that this you can't draw kind of thing is what I get a lot of. And the more people say it, the more I know I can, because I just know these people that treat this in that particular, that production orientated way. I know that they're wrong, because not because they're wrong, but because they're not open to other ways of doing it. And that's the wrongness. It's not a case of they do it wrong. It's a case of that not having that understanding that we all do it differently, and our response to the world is different. Not understanding that how critical that is to being an artist means they're not artists, really. As I said, criticizing other artists is just not on. Basically, not if you know anything about this. If you appreciate what this is about, then you would never criticize another artist. I mean, having said that, I have criticized other artists. I have criticized people who purport to be artists, when clearly they're not. So that's, you know, and then there's the judgment. Who am I to say? That kind of thing, you know. But you know, honesty and purity is the thing for me. So any work of art has to be honest and pure. I don't care how well it's done. I don't care whether it's accurate. I just need to see that honest and pure intent, that creative intent. And you can see it. You can see it. And I've just been listening to Edward Povey talking about, you know, if you could forget everything and went into the studio as a child. And this is a theme that comes all the time. I talk about the childlike approach all the time. And that's the thing, the honesty and purity of, because that's what he's referring to, of the, you know, whatever happened in the studio when you were a child or in a childlike state. That's the, you know, that's where and that's why people have not been able to define what creativity is, because it requires that removal of all definitions. You know, the art is crowd, you know, and generally speaking, those that do that will resort to comparison. You know, that's how, you know, Rembrandt did it or whatever. They will resort to comparison as to the foundation of their judgment. But it's, for me, I think this is probably why contemporary art is attractive to me, because of this. You know, art is whatever I say it is, and art is intended to move people. You know, that kind of conceptual stuff, and you know, the Tracy Emin and the Damien Hirst approach, and many others. I mean, I'm not academically up on contemporary art or painters full stop. Deliberately, I'm not interested. Basically, as I said, this is my route, this is my journey, and I'll get there as I want to get there. And I think that's probably, I can't change that. I've got to stay with that. So if I'm going to learn, occasionally I refer to Sargent or Zorn or Sorolla, but because they're known, you know, they're known quantities, and people will you know, mass know. If I talk about charcoal and I talk about light, you know, I talk about the expedience side of things. They all relate to different, in, you know, sort of in varying measures. They all relate to those three characters. So people understand that. So if I'm, you know, this thing about I want to get a message across, I need to talk to people in a language they understand thing. But other than that, I'm not someone that could quote a, you know, particular artist. As an influence or anything else, you know. Although I would have said once upon a time that Sargent his watercolors were an influence. Big honour, because I didn't know any better. I'd never seen any real watercolorists, and even, to be fair, I don't think I've seen any watercolorists since I've looked at Sargent's work. I hate the colorinist, you know, the Chinese things that look like photographs. I hate all that. It's just like, that is production and art. That's proper commercial art. And I just, like, I don't get that at all. There's one or two of them that can really do it, but, you know, paint. There's a guy that he paints big, and he switches the paper around and whatever, and makes it flow in different. And he can really do it. But the majority is a tracing that's just coloured in. And I don't like that at all. If I'm looking at watercolors, I want to see the kind of the wrongness that you see in Sargent's watercolors. I want to see the Santa Maria de Salo kind of painting and drawing skills, not something that's just traced and then painted in. You know, that's not. And, you know, skillfully controlling the watercolor and all that. I'm not interested in that at all. But that's, you know, that's quite a common thing, that, you know, that they become dominant features or influences because of their understandability and relatability. I mean, it looks like a photograph. That's what they'll say, as if that's a desirable skill for an artist to create photographic work. Somebody said that about my drawings of the day, about them photorealistic. I think it was I was insulted. I must admit, I was insulted by that. And the last thing I want to do is create photorealistic work. Yeah, but going back to the energy thing, the number one thing I think is the mark. So if you are, and you, obviously the number one thing is response, but let's just talk about the practical things. The marks. Try and I would suggest use something that is out of your comfort zone in terms of making marks, and be fearless in that. I mean, this is what we do on the workshop. When I used to run the workshops, the second week in the workshops was about fearlessness, and the amount of people that can't just make a mark, just without any consideration, without any deliberation. It's really, really difficult for some people. But I think that that has to be attached to the it don't really matter kind of thinking. Whatever happens, happens. It's got to be attached to that. But I'd say that using a medium that's not going to allow you to do certain things that you normally do, particularly if you've been doing this before. This is one of the problems with a lot of people that have already done all this sort of stuff, and they're locked into their habits, and that's going to be really difficult to break. I mean, I sometimes I won't even try. I'd say just carry on doing what you're doing. If you've got a desire to change it, then change it. But the things that I do will counter everything that you have been doing for so long, that it'll be more difficult. But if because a lot of people think that loose, free, energetic mark making is a style change, and in a way it's I'm talking about using a piece of charcoal that won't allow you to make precision marks, and in a way, so that's really is a practical style kind of approach to it. And a lot of people think that that's the case when they want to loosen the style. They get a bigger brush, or the stamping standing up, or you've seen all those things. But none of those things have anything to do with having a looser style. A looser style is about having the right mindset. But what I was trying to get to was the energy thing. If the energy is anywhere, it's in those marks that are purely responsive marks. It's there in those marks. So that's kind of where the having mediums that aren't, or a tool that isn't your normal tool comes in, and it's couple that with the fearless, and you're pretty much going to be in the responsive territory, and you're pretty much going to be capturing life, regardless of whether it's accurate or not. You're pretty much going to be doing that, and it's like somebody said yesterday that his drawings always end up looking cartoonish. Now, that's a sign. I think that's a sign that he's doing it right, because what he's doing is focusing on what it is that's important. It just happens to be making them overly important. So rather than treating it as a relative to everything else kind of way, so it's size and position and everything else, he makes it too big or makes it too small, and but he's got the right idea, because he's doing what he's supposed to do, which is to emphasize what it is that makes the face, and emphasize it in a way that's emotionally driven. So he's doing everything right. It's just that he's doing it too much. But yeah, it's capturing the life in things, or capturing the energy in things, has got to start with the marks that you make. And it's not just a decision to be fearless and make big bold brush marks, because you see that as well. People say make big bold brush marks. It's not really that either. Whilst ever it's a consideration, it's never going to be the right thing. It has to be unconsidered. It has to be driven by your emotions, and that, because that's the only way you're going to respond to life, isn't it? You're going to, it's when you meet somebody and all that, you respond to them. It's that thing. It's not a deliberate, contrived conversation that you're having with somebody. You're actually just responding to them on a primitive, primal level, and that's the thing you need to tune into. That's not hard to do. It's just that you don't think it's anything to do with drawing, but it's that you can do that every day. All day of the week we can do that, can't you? You meet somebody, you think, I don't like that person. You know what I mean? It's that thing that you're able to decide whether you like somebody or not is the thing that drives your response. It's got to be, hasn't it? I know it's difficult with photographs. I always talk about it being, as if it's a person. And I know it's difficult with photographs, but it's so easy to get around that. And everybody who talks about it is like, you shouldn't use photographs and this and that thing. But unfortunately, most of us don't have the luxury. These people that say that kind of thing are usually got the luxury of a life model or whatever. Somebody will sit. I mean, I do this 3-4 times a day. You imagine how many models I go through. So it's got to be photographs, hasn't it? But the thing is that the trick to get around that is simply to imagine that's a person that you know. And the easiest way to do that is just to give them a name of somebody you know, or somebody you've met, or somebody you've seen, or somebody from a TV show. And it immediately imbues the photograph with the personality, the persona of the person that you're recalling because of the name you're using. So it's dead easy to do that. And then when the thing is that, and this is why this is better from a photographic point of view, using photographs, is that as soon as you make an effort to define a persona, the persona then is set in your sights. You don't necessarily do that when people staring at a wall in one of these live sessions. They're just staring at a wall. And 9 times out of 10, if you've been to these things, they don't talk to the model. Some do. Some know the model and some chat with the model, but generally speaking, they don't. And I don't mean just a laugh and a giggle when you're drawing them. I mean actually draw, or when you have the cup of tea at half time. You know that one. It's too late then. It's too late. If you're talking to them and getting to know them at half time when you're having a cup of tea, that's too late. You should have been talking to them and getting to know them before you start to draw them or paint them. But that's the thing. You don't do that. It's not, as someone said to me, they went on one of these fancy courses, paid a fortune for it as well, and learned nothing. I've seen what she did and what they told her, and it was she should have asked for her money back. But anyway, that's another story. But she was told not to talk to the model. I said not even before. I didn't even chat and just get to know them and connect with their persona. Have you seen the things like the game show? On that game show, the Sky thing, when the person actually does the commission, the person that won it, they spend time with them. They get to know them. That's really the best way to make a portrait. And regardless of how it turns out, it'll be a better portrait. I mean, the downside to that, the damage aspect of it, the things that go wrong with that, is that they think that the preliminary meetings with a subject is about making sketches to get to know the face. No, it's about getting to know the persona in order to capture the persona, capture the face. But they spend time, and the trouble is, if you keep redrawing something, it becomes stylized, and then once it's stylized, you chase away the authenticity. You chase away the genuineness of something, regardless of whether it's accurate or not. The initial marks that you make are going to have more life in them than the marks that you made on the 3rd, 4th, 5th attempt to draw the face. So you need to be careful of that overdrawing a face. I mean, I'm fortunate in that I never draw the same thing twice, so I don't fall into that trap. So I could draw this woman from a different angle, for instance, if I could find another image of it. So, but that would be a bad idea, because I know this is the first time I've seen her, and this is the first pure response to her that I've had. Why would I want to try and do that again? Am I not confident in my response? That's the thing. So I will not draw something again and again and again. It makes no sense. And it does if you're a practical kind of artist, where you've got to get the nose right next time and all that kind of stuff. But that's not me. I'm not interested in that. If I caught the life in the first time that I spoke to this person, connected to this person, then that's good enough. Whether or not it's a perfect drawing, or whether it's rendered in the right way, or it's irrelevant. But as I said, it's our job is to capture life, and sometimes it's the last thing on an artist's mind. People are trained to draw dead things, draw skulls and things as a part of an anatomy thing. But the last thing a portrait artist does is draw dead things, or should be. But again, as I said, this what I'm thinking about in this video is the energy thing. I think that's the thing that we really have to focus on, the energy that happens. And I don't think it's a deliberate thing. I'm not sat here thinking I need to make these lines more sparky and more flamboyant. I'm not sat thinking that. I'm just responding to the energy of the thing. Admittedly, as I said, the deliberately using the medium that's difficult to make precision with, and it forces me to make more bolder marks. That's part of it. But it's not a deliberate, conscious thing that I can call it. This is the way I capture life. I can't do that. It's just my response. I focus only on my response. So anyway, I think it's just about done, apart from getting a bit better shaping on things, and what I mean, that bit. So there's going to be some tonal. Background to it. I just need, because I really need to get the this highlight on this face, this on the side of her face. This is what that bit there is. What really, for me, is the you see it, can't you? You can see that there, how intense that is. You can see that on that. It's that really is the the thing. And the dark hair. I mean, how it's really dark there. It's not so dark there, but it's still nice. It's all of that contributes to the intensity of that, which is the life thing. But I think I've done enough on it. I'm just going to put the background on it, and then sort the hair out there, and then keep that magnify that effect of that focus on the side of the face there. But when it's driven by this desire to capture the life in it, the marks themselves are important and not important simultaneously. It's like a contradiction of what this is about. It's like I'm trying to draw it but not draw it is probably the way I'd describe it. So when it becomes, because in the early stages my marks are like frantic, as you see, but at the same time, that franticness that's just pure response to something, I need to keep that. I need that to stay in order to keep as I said, my lively response, my response that's full of life, and the marks that are full of life need to stay. So consequently, you kind of get into a position of, well, is that and I'll touch things and sort the tones out as I'm working along, but you've got to get in that position where it doesn't matter if I change that. If I change that there, what's going to happen? Is it necessary to change that? Is it, it's like you kind of filter in the what's important, what's not important at the moment that you're drawing it. So some of those lines that remained in this one, this line here, why is that there? Why this? If I take it out, does it make much difference? No, it's not. It's not about that. Is that hair right there? No, is that it's kind of like all the energy that's in these lines needs to stay. No matter how much I blend it or smooth it, it won't get any better than that. And that's the thing about not falling into the trap of doing it like other people. Doing it in the same way, because you're going to be losing the wrong end of the charcoal. You're going to be. That's the problem with a little piece now. It's going. I'm losing the practicality of it, because even if it's they start off like this, and I know exactly where I am with it, but when it gets to that, it's flipping around my fingers, but that's the thing. It's like a fighting against this predetermined what it should be kind of thing, and I don't know. I feel as though I have that battle all the time. It should be like this, or it should be that good. It should be done in this way, and I know I'm not going to fix all this here, but and I'm in conversations with people that have clear ideas that it should always be done in this way. It should always be produced in this way. That's the and I can't break away from that with some people. They're not, as I said earlier, they're not open-minded enough to understand that it doesn't have to always be done that way. It can be done whatever way you want. But like I say, putting the life into it in the first stages, making the marks lively marks, and they're only just responsive marks. It's just almost like a knee-jerk reaction to something. But that knee-jerk reaction is your emotional response. But that, as I said, that's the thing. I think there's a friend of mine that does this, and he said about the looseness and the way I start drawing. You can't comprehend that. He has a very predictable, production-orientated kind of approach to it, and when he sees what I do, it's just completely out of sync with what he does and what he knows. Anyway, like I say, it may be peculiar to me, when I'd like to think it wasn't, and that people understand that this is about, a response to something, and an emotional response more than observational response, and recognizing that the difference it makes to your work is just incredible. But convincing people that it would be like that, it's just almost impossible. But then on the other flip side to that is that it's not my job to convince people. If someone wants to know, then so be it. If they don't, then so be it. I'm not really. All I'm not trying to do is help people to make better portraits, really, at the end of the day. But some people don't want help. They want their kind of help. It's the thing about teaching. I've said this before, about people say to me, I want you to teach me, but I want you to teach me like this. And I don't, that's not, what I mean? That's not, I want you to teach. And that's the thing with education. I think all education meets the perception of the student, as opposed to being, and those that don't. I mean, I've seen what's his name now? It's not Nick Elm, but there's another guy like that. What do they call him? I forget his name now. And I've seen him teaching, and it's just like you can tell the students didn't expect what he's doing, but these guys are like, you know, you're having it, and if you don't like it, you can just go and neddy, you know, and that's kind of what I should be like. But as I said, they get paid for doing it. I don't get paid, so I'm not I'm not really in the business of forcing people to do it a particular way. If they want to do it like me, I'd gladly tell them how to do it, but I'm not gonna. If they don't get it, then I'm not going to struggle to, you know, life's too short. You either get it or you don't. The other thing on the production side of it, on the, you know, the way the charcoal works side of it, apart from the size of it, you know, affecting the way I make the marks, there is a tonality about the way that the charcoal works. This charcoal works. It's not always the case with the homemade stuff. It's very predictable and unpredictable rather, and consequently, it feels sometimes like I'm learning to use charcoal over again, which is good, because it's you need to be conscious of what's happening and, you know, present and all that. You need to do that when you're making a portrait. There's nothing worse. It's the reason why you lose your likeness is because you're not present and you're suddenly focusing on detail, or you're focusing on mixing the colors right or whatever, and you lose focus, and all of a sudden the likeness is gone. So that I like it. As I say, I like the unpredictable of the homemade stuff, because it does this. It changes every time when I use it. But the tonality of things, you know, on this one, on the beard, on the front of the hat, there's a bit of it down there, and certainly on the top there. It's happening on other places on this. So this is the quality, I suppose, of the charcoal, is that it creates these it has a tonal impact that isn't predictable. It almost contributes to the effect of you know, capturing the face, and that it's serendipity really that is controlling that. It's not really a deliberate thing, other than the fact that it's deliberate at the moment I do it. You know what I mean? It's not big present thing is being deliberate with the marks you're making at the moment you're making the marks, not considered or premeditated. And a lot of them are skill based, because these will be, you know, the way I tweak the tones and things are all based on experience of doing this so many times. But at some point I saw what was happening and liked what was happening, and continued to do that because I liked the way it worked and the way it helped me to manifest the persona, you know, the life. But I couldn't teach people to do that. I could only teach people to have their eyes open to the occasions when it might happen, or not teach, but help them to understand that this may happen. So keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open, your mind open, and your soul open. So I've done, apart from a bit of but not a lot of shaping and making sure that the implications are right. This is a particular implication here. I'm not really sure that it's necessary to put too much into that implication, other than that, probably. And then there's other indications around the edges and things. Although I do like when that happens, when there's because what happens with hair is it's going to just disappear at the edge, and it just self-vignettes. And I'm probably going to do that and get rid of some of these highlights that are coming down here, because it's not really it's not light. And what will happen with these highlights is it'll draw away from the face. It's just grey down here, but I'll gradually work these in. I want to keep some of the life marks, the gestural stuff in there, because that's part of the the motion, if you like, of the hair. So I need to keep that in, and then just I think just fix the tones, and it's done. So I think that's probably a bit of a ramble, that one, but occasionally it happens that I can't help it. It's just the way my mind works. A lot of these things, because they're not the kind of things that are normally discussed in a drawing, a drawing of portraits, but they're the most important thing for me. So a lot of these things are alien to a lot of people. It's like a irrelevance to them. But when people ask me why my drawings are the way they are, this is why they are, because I think of it in this respect. Right. So, as I say, edges and things, but I think that's got the life of it. In the same way that one did last night. I think it's just as full of life as but without the sort of rustic kind of raw. There is a rawness about it, but it's not as raw as that is. You know what I mean? There's not. You can see it's not as raw as that. Nice drawing that. Well, I think it's the subject. I mean, the subject is the reason why it's a great portrait. But it's just dropping on. People say to this, "How do you find all your references?" I spend hours and hours and hours looking on sites, whether it's Pinterest or Unsplash or Pexels. That's it. And I just spent hours. I did do the go out and film people and use the footage, thing, but it's cold outside and it's wet and it's, you know what I mean. And when the sun shines and there's plenty of light, that's a different thing. I'm out this afternoon walking, so I might take the camera and see if anybody wants to be, or take the phone at least, and see if anybody wants their portrait. I've done it a couple of times now, and it's been really successful now. But the cost of it is quite intense. I just want to get back and draw them, but it's going to cost me an hour of talking to them, which is not a bad thing because I get to know them. But I want to capture them. I'd rather be there with a sketchbook, I suppose. And it's probably what I should do is take the sketchbook with me. But I don't know. People are not going to. They'll just sit and chat for an hour, but they won't sit and pose for an hour, which is. It's a different ask, that, isn't it? For a few seconds of video, as opposed to a sit still for an hour. It's a different ask, and you're not going to get as many people willing to do that. So, I always resort to filming them. And the other thing about that is, and the main reason for filming them is because you get them to relax and they become this, and you'll see the true self. And that's the thing that I'm trying to capture. You won't get somebody smiling for half an hour or an hour. You won't get that. You won't get somebody thinking of, sad thoughts, as this girl might be, for an hour. You'll just get a fleeting glance of that. But if it's on the video, then I can then draw it. So there's all kinds of reasons why filming them is the best way. Filming the people is the best way to get the right kind of images, and the reason why you can't do that when you're working from live. Right, as I said, I'm done now. I'm just tidying things up, I think, and trying to sort the tones in a way.